the cold chain and modified and controlled atmosphere. And again, you have a much longer detailed presentations on the presentations included in the package that you're going to have access to. And that in that detailed presentation, much more detailed than this brief presentation that I'm going to give right now. There are several detailed examples, especially related to the questions that I had in the previous presentation. Someone asked me from here about some examples of how to apply modified atmosphere. So let's introduce now the basic principles. I know the audience is very mixed. I know that some people are very much familiar and very much knowledgeable about the subjects. Maybe they will find some of the things that I would say here repeatable, but I think it's a good idea to introduce them anyway, so that for the next presentations, when the technical people, especially the company people, start talking about the specific infrastructures, hopefully the brief descriptions that I will give here hopefully will help you understand when these technical people start to showing you the specific infrastructure. Right? I think the cold chain can be described in this figure right here. Right? As this figure describes the reason why the cold chain is very important. All perishables, vegetables, fruits of any kind, are alive. They breathe, that means they respire. They produce heat. That means they can get hot. That is true. They lose water all the time. From the minute that they are harvested, they get sick. They develop a lot of diseases, and eventually they die. Okay? And this is true. This is not just a cartoon idea, but this is a real thing, okay? They are alive, they breathe all the time. From the minute that they cut from the tree, they release heat because they are breathing, so they get hot. They lose water, they lose moisture, they get sick, and they eventually die, right? So we need to intervene so that they can respire, but they respire slowly, so they do not produce too much heat, they don't get hot. The more heat they produce, the more they deteriorate very fast. The more that they get lost and they get wasted very fast. The more they lose water, the more their quality deteriorates. If we don't intervene, they get sick, they develop diseases, they develop decay, and then we eventually lose them. Okay? That's what we want to intervene with the practices to reduce these problems. We have many things that we usually do in post-harvest, and there are many factors that usually influence on the perishables. The most important one of those is temperature. But relative humidity is very important. The atmosphere in the air is important. The air has gases, has different type of gases. It's very important. Ethylene is extremely important. All fruits and vegetables produce ethylene, which is very important. Light is important, and there are other factors that are also important. The single most important of all those is the temperature. The higher the temperature, the higher the deterioration. The lower the temperature, the lower the deterioration. As simple as that. Very simple. Temperature increases, the fruit and vegetable deteriorates fast. Temperature is lower, deterioration is slow, quality is better, storage time is longer. This is a straightforward relation, okay? And also, if temperature is high, the produce will lose water. It will deteriorate faster. We do not want the produce to lose water. We all always would like the produce to be fresh and turgid and has a high amount of water. To do not lose water. And water is lost if the temperature is high. Water will not be lost or would be lost very slowly if the temperature is lower. When temperature increases, even very little, as it says here, even as low as 10 degrees Celsius, things deteriorate very, very fast in different ways, especially things that look green. It becomes yellow very fast, it becomes drier very fast, and so on. Temperature is high, the produce, the fruit and vegetables decays very fast. Temperature is low, decay do not develop. There are many diseases that will not develop if the temperature is low. Those diseases not only deteriorate the produce, but some of them are not good for health, for human health, for the consumer's health. So if we reduce the temperature, we avoid the development of those diseases. So we avoid the deterioration of the fruit, and at the same time, the consumption of the fruit is safer for the consumer, for the human, okay? If the temperature increases, the fungi, the bacteria grow very fast. So the fruit and vegetables decays very fast, deteriorates very fast. And not only that, but it's worse. It may be bad for human health, for human safety. So lowering the temperature, not only good for the fruit and vegetables, so it will not deteriorate fast, but it's also good for human health. Right? We do not get sick because of the microorganisms that usually grow on the fruit or vegetables. So temperature control is very important. Lowering the temperature is ideal, so the fruit will respire, will breathe slowly, will live longer, will lose much less water or do not lose water. That's another way of not, so that it will not deteriorate. Microorganisms, especially fungi and bacteria, will not be able to grow. So not only that the fruit will not deteriorate, but human health will be safer. Okay? But if temperature grows, it's the other way around. The fruit will deteriorate much faster. It will breathe much faster. So it will die much faster. Okay? And also it may not be safe for the consumer, for human health. Okay? That is why cooling or refrigeration or lowering the temperature, controlling the temperature is extremely important. Is the single most important factor to maintain fresh fruits and vegetables. So lower temperature, lower deterioration. Higher temperature, higher deterioration is very straightforward. Okay? If we want the fruit not to deteriorate or not deteriorate fast, we have to reduce the temperature. We have to lower the temperature. All other technologies, all other practices, all other techniques are simply complements to lowering the temperature. They cannot substitute lowering the temperature. Yeah? I hope that stays clear. We first lower the temperature and then use any other practice. Modified atmosphere, controlled atmosphere, waxing, irradiation, whatever, packaging, etc., etc., etc. First, we do the first. And the first is cooling, lowering the temperature. Okay? And that's why the golden rule, the most important rule in post-harvest is cool it fast and keep it cool. What is it? What? I didn't hear it. Cool it fast and keep it cool. That is post-harvest. Post-harvest is cool it fast and keep it cool. Okay? If you don't do that, forget about anything else. Okay? Nothing functions. Nothing can work if you don't do that. Cool it fast and keep it cool. That is post-harvest. Post-harvest can be put in those, how many words of those? 6 words. Cool it fast and keep it cool. Remember that. That is the golden rule of post-harvest. And that is what the professionals that they are going to talk to you after me, that's what they call the cold chain. That is the cold chain. The cold chain is cool it fast and keep it cool. That means something called pre-cooling and then constant optimum temperature during storage, during transport, and during marketing. Okay? You harvest it at higher temperature, you bring down the temperature, and you maintain that temperature. That is the cold chain. It's a chain. It's a chain meaning that you should not break the chain as much as possible, as much as you can. Okay? So you harvest it and you cool it fast. Cool it fast with whatever mean you have. If you only have a simple shade, that's enough. That means the temperature will not be increased very much. Whatever you can do to lower the temperature with whatever means is available to you. If all what you have is simply a simple shade, so the fruit or vegetable is not exposed directly to the sun, is not heated because of the direct exposure to the sun, that's good enough. Okay? If you have other means, and my colleagues here, they come and tell you about other means of cooling it much, much faster, which require a little more expensive, that's fine. But there are many simple ways of cooling it down. Shade, throwing a little bit of water on top of the vegetables or the fruit, etc., etc. Whatever you can do. In some crops, lowering one centigrade of temperature can gain you 1 day of life, as much as important reducing even 1 centigrade of temperature. Whatever you can do to keep it cool, okay? And there are many simple ways of doing it, okay? But there are means of doing it very, very fast, and we call that pre-cooling, okay? And pre-cooling meaning that reducing the temperature the fastest possible. That is the process of pre-cooling, and I'm sure the other presentation will detail that. There are so many advantages of this process of pre-cooling, bringing the temperature the fastest possible from the temperature when we harvest to the temperature, the ideal temperature. Remember some of the ideal temperature that we mentioned in the previous presentations? The bringing down that temperature down from the temperature of the harvest, 35, 40 degrees Celsius, whatever the temperature that you harvest to that temperature that we mentioned as the ideal, when we do it very fast, that is called pre-cooling. And it has so many advantages. And there are several methods to do that. There are something called room cooling, forced air cooling. I'm just going to mention some of these methods, and I'm sure that many of you, probably all of you, are familiar with these methods. If there is time for discussion, we can explain it calmly. Another method that was mentioned earlier was evaporative cooling, hydro cooling, meaning using cold water, vacuum cooling, which is a very, very effective, especially for leafy vegetables, where you can bring temperature down from 35 to 40 degrees Celsius to almost zero in about 10 to 15 minutes. A very, very efficient way. But of course, it requires a little bit of investment. The use of ice is also efficient and is also very much used. So there are several methods, and we can use either of these methods depending on the type of product and depending on the type of investment that we can afford. Okay? Then when we bring the temperature, when we accomplish this pre-cooling or fast cooling, then we need to maintain this low temperature all the time. And that's keeping the product at its optimum temperature. Each fruit and each vegetable has an optimum ideal temperature depending on several of the characteristics that we mentioned in the previous presentations. it's easier to find out from any textbooks. They are all established, not only for the different species, but even for the different cultivars of the different species. Okay? And of course, that has to do with the refrigerated storage and the refrigerated transport, okay? And the refrigeration during marketing. Okay? But be careful, because there are certain products that are sensitive to cold temperature. And we mentioned that also in the previous presentation. That's what we call chilling sensitive crops. I'm talking about all tropical crops. All tropical crops are sensitive to low temperature. There are many that are not sensitive to low temperature, and those we usually maintain at 0 or close to 0 degrees Celsius. Those that are sensitive to chilling temperature, we need to keep them at a little higher temperature. Remember what's the temperature, the ideal temperature for custard apple? A premium for whoever answered the question. 13 degrees Celsius. Remember what is it for banana? 13, 14 degrees Celsius. Well, what is it for apples?
1 degree.
0 or 1 or 2 degrees, you are right. What is it for grapes? Around 0 degrees Celsius. So those are not sensitive to chilling temperature, but banana, custard apples, mango, papaya, etc. are sensitive, so we cannot keep them at low temperature as it is the case for apples and grapes. So we have to be very careful not to expose crops that are sensitive to chilling temperature at very low temperature when they are, okay? The other factor which we mentioned and we repeated several times in previous presentations is maintaining humidity. Most fruits and vegetables require very high humidity, except very few, like dry onion, dry garlic, that I mentioned in the previous presentations, nuts, where they should be maintained at low relative humidity, around 65 to 70%. Almost all other crops, all other fresh crops, especially vegetables, and especially leafy vegetables, require very high relative humidity. Okay? Very fast. Related to modified and controlled atmosphere. I assume that you probably all know, or many of you know, but just in case, okay? So that when the next presentation starts detailing, then you know what the terminology means. Modified atmosphere, meaning that we change the composition of this air, this regular air. This air that we breathe has this amount of gases that I mentioned here. It has 20% oxygen, it has 78 to 79% nitrogen, and it has very, very little carbon dioxide. That's the normal air. The normal air that we are respiring, we are breathing right now. We use this air, we change it. And then when we change it, we call it modified atmosphere. And we change it in so many ways, in thousands of different ways. By reducing some gas, increasing another gas, or making different kind of mixtures, we come up with hundreds of different types of mixture depending on the different types of fruits. For each type of fruits, we come up with a different type of mixture. That is the result of more than 50 years of research. Okay? And we have tables already listed for you that tells you, I hope that you remember from the previous slides, it tells you exactly how much oxygen, how much CO2, etc., that you can use for each crop, how much for apples, how much for custard apples, how much for banana, etc., etc. That is established already after so many years of research, okay? When we change the air, but without any control, we just change it, we call it modified atmosphere. But when we change it and we control it all the time, we call it controlled atmosphere. For example, you lady, you've been using modified atmosphere in your home all your life. And not only you, but even your grandmothers for thousands of years have been using modified atmosphere all their lives. Eh? The minute that you put something in a plastic bag, it starts modifying its atmosphere. But because the fruit respires, and when you close the bag, while it is respiring, it's changing its atmosphere inside the bag. So it's making its own modified atmosphere. That is the simplest form of creating a modified atmosphere. And we use that in a commercial form. We use that every day in a commercial industrial form. So there are many simple ways of applying modified atmosphere. But there are also very sophisticated ways of using controlled atmosphere. For example, when we stored apples for almost 1 year in a controlled atmosphere room, all the year, the amount of oxygen is always the same, or the amount of the other gases are always the same. We use a lot of control to maintain that. Okay? That's expensive, but we do that when we require a controlled atmosphere, and we do use that. Both systems are very much used for many types of foods, not only for fruits, for vegetables, for flowers, but for all kinds of foods, for meat, for fish, for cheese, for milk, etc., etc., etc. They are very, very, very much used. So we use modified atmosphere when we want to. We use controlled atmosphere when we want to. And I didn't forget the question that I was asked earlier. Usually, the most common way of using this technology is to reduce the oxygen. How much oxygen is in this air? You forgot very fast? 20%. So the common thing for this technology is to use oxygen less than 20%. Okay? Remember that fruits and vegetables respire. Okay? If we allow them in this air with 20% oxygen, they respire fast. If they respire fast, they die fast. Okay? If we keep the oxygen lower, they respire very slowly, and they will die very slowly. They will deteriorate very slowly. Okay? If we reduce the oxygen in this room, we will die very slow, very fast. Not slowly. Okay? We'll die very fast if the oxygen gets less than 17%. We will die immediately. But the fruits can live very happily even at 2% oxygen, not 20% oxygen, with no problem. Okay? That's why we can maintain apples in the market every single day of the year. Although apple is harvested only once in a season. And the reason is that we harvest them and we keep them in controlled atmosphere, and we can keep them for up to a year. We can keep them for more than a year, but of course there is no reason for it, because the next harvest will come, and we have to get them out. Okay, that is so. And those apples, we usually keep them at a concentration of oxygen of about 2 to 3% oxygen. Very, very, very low, very dangerous for human, but not dangerous at all for fruits and vegetables. How much carbon dioxide is in this air right now?
20%.
78, 70.
Carbon dioxide.
0.03.
Almost no carbon dioxide in this air.
0.03.
Yeah, 0.0003, almost nothing. If we keep a fruit in this atmosphere with almost no carbon dioxide, it will expire very fast. So it will die very fast. We don't want that. So if we add carbon dioxide in this room while we are here, we will die in a few seconds. But in the case of fruits and vegetables, we can add as much as 20% carbon dioxide, and not only nothing wrong will happen to them, they will live for much, much longer time. Okay? So the whole idea of this technology is theoretically very simple. It's nothing but changing the composition of the air. And now, the technology is very much available and easy to apply. There are different ways. If the next presentation do not explain you how it is done, I'll be very happy to come back and do it. Okay? Why we do this? Why do we use this modified atmosphere? By the way, this technology is being used for thousands of years, in a non-intentional way, but as a systematic technology, it's been used for almost 100 years, especially in the last 70 or 80 years. It has been used very extensively in many fruits and vegetables and in many other types of foods, because it has so many advantages. It reduces the metabolic activity of the food, so the food will deteriorate very slowly or will not deteriorate, and many other advantages, resulting in less deterioration of the fruit, so the fruit can live longer. If you leave an apple out in this normal air, it will probably live for 3 to 7 days. But we can keep it for 1 year in this technology, just to give you an idea of the huge advantage and huge differences. Okay? Look at this picture. This is after 6 months of these pears. Both are stored at the same temperature, except that the one on this side was kept in this normal air, and the one on this side was kept in controlled atmosphere. This is controlled atmosphere, meaning that the concentration of gases are controlled all the time. What is the controlled atmosphere? That is what was used here for the pears. It doesn't say. Yeah, it doesn't show. It shows on the top. It says 2% oxygen and 5% carbon dioxide. How can we use this technology? We can use it for packaging, when we package foods. And for packaging, it's used in every single type of foods. Not only every single type of fruits and vegetables, but every single type of foods. We can use it. This meals here that was prepared for lunch are commonly maintained, packaged, and modified atmosphere to be kept for longer time. But we can also package certain type of fruit or certain type of vegetables in a modified atmosphere. A piece of meat, piece of fish, cheese, etc. Many foods are packaged in modified atmosphere. So in a package and the atmosphere inside the package surrounding the product is modified, different than the normal air. How different? Depending on the type of food. And we have established that. We have tables that indicates how much oxygen, how much CO2, etc., for each type of food. The other application that we use this technology for is when we transport food, especially when we transport food by marine shipment. Right? We were discussing this morning, and you probably know, of course, you are the biggest producer of mango in the world. But we are the biggest exporters of mango in the world. And we've been exporting mango all over the world thanks to this technology, because we send our mango anywhere on earth inside containers with controlled, modified and controlled atmosphere. We've been exporting mango from Mexico to Japan since 1974 in marine containers with modified and controlled atmosphere. So this is a technology that's been used very much, and it's been used for a long time. So the technology is very much established. Packaging, transport, and the other application that's also very much used is during storage. Now in the case of storage, for storage, it is only used for fruits and vegetables, not for other types of foods. We only use it for apples, for pears, for kiwi, for cabbage, for onions, and for pomegranates. Okay? Those are the 6 types of fruits that are stored under controlled atmosphere or can be stored in controlled atmosphere. Packaging, you can do it for anything. Transport, you can do it for anything. Storage, you can only so far, we only have the technology established for these 6 types of fruits. Okay? I hope this is brief enough. Okay? But if there is any detail, we'll be happy to